Greetings and welcome to the Buffalo Review TV. I'm Max Wagner. Thank you for joining us today.
And I'm Amy Kavanaugh. Coming up on our show, a new enzyme that breaks down plastic bottles, and a Buffalo State student overcoming a difficult medical condition.
Now, from the campus of SUNY Buffalo State, news and information for Buffalo and the surrounding communities. It's the Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media.
A robbery on Buffalo State's campus left students unsettled. Two males entered Cassidy Hall last Thursday, forcing their way into a dormitory and taking 3 cell phones and the victim's cash. As of today, 1 suspect has been arrested and 2 of the cell phones have been recovered.
Not many folks are aware of their drive down Grant Street that they are traveling a road that once hosted a pivotal battle during the War of 1812. The Battle of Skagway Bridge was led by Major Ludwig Morgan in August of 1814. The American victory over the British was a direct result of Morgan's incredible command. Major Morgan instructed his men to dismantle the bridge that the British were entering on, and when British troops were told to march, American troops dropped the bridge. Black Rock Historical Society co-founder and author Doreen DeBoth has painted 2 pictures, one representing the battle and the other the American strategy. Major Morgan was killed soon after in battle and is buried in Forest Lawn Cemetery.
The Exchange Street Station downtown will be getting a new look. The $20 million revamp will combine a classic and contemporary style. The new station will be nearly 3 times its current size and remain in the same location. During construction, the ground will be raised almost 7 feet, as well as the station moved closer to the street. The train station is expected to be completed by summer 2020.
Former Buffalo Bill and longtime fan favorite Fred Jackson signed a 1-day contract with the team last week to retire as a Buffalo Bill. The team's 3rd all-time leading rusher ran for 5,556 yards and 30 touchdowns in his 8 NFL seasons in Western New York, and was a fixture in the community as well. After being cut from the team in 2015, Jackson says he is relieved to be ending his career as a Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo State is home to 17 different NCAA sports teams, but that does not include one sports team that has been competing at the school for over 20 years. Our Marcos Watkins has more with his report.
Thank you, Amy. Men and women's rugby has fielded club teams at Buffalo State since 1973. Throughout that time, the clubs have found success and traditions that stand to this day. To get more on the team, we reported on one of their annual traditions last Saturday. The Bengals hosted their annual Kanga Cup tournament last Saturday in West Seneca at Fireman's Park. The tournament featured several different teams, both on the men's and women's side, vying for the top spot of the day, but also looking to improve their craft.
The balance between aggression and just passion. Like, you go out there every day, give it your all, man, and it just shows.
However, this tournament is more than just any other tournament, as it is named in the honor of a former Buffalo State women's rugby player who tragically died in a car accident years ago.
It's very important. The base of it is Kanga. There's a girl, she died at 21. She was an alumni of the Buff State Women's Club, and she died at 21 in the city, got hit by a car. This tournament's all for her. Her family's here today. They come support us. It means a lot to them, and just both teams, because she was a great girl and everybody loved her. It's all for her.
Several teams from across Western and Central New York competed, like Geneseo and Rochester. But in the end, it would be Buff State claiming the victory, coming in first place on both sides. For Buffalo State, it was another important chapter in their history and another trophy to take home.
Buff State has been around for a very long time. The Banshees and Mad Dogs. It's a very historied tradition that we have. We have alumni that's great that come support us. We actually have our alumni game in the next 2 weeks, and that's always fun. But the history so far is that it's a club sport at Buff State, and we continually have great numbers showing up. Whoever plays rugby tends to stick with rugby and plays even after they graduate.
It's a brotherhood. Both teams are sisterhood for the girls. Everybody, we're like family. You know, we all love each other, and just the sport alone, I love it. Everybody who plays it, they think they're going to quit or leave, but no, they just love it. They suck them in, and it's just a fun sport and big brotherhood, family.
With its traditions of competitiveness and also togetherness, Buffalo State Rugby hopes today is like every day onward. From the Buffalo Review, I'm Marcos Watkins.
Amidst the raging opioid epidemic across the country, many foundations have sprung up in hopes to assist those in need. Here in Western New York, after a devastating loss, one family is fighting back with their Save the Michaels of the World awareness program. In 2011, Avi and Julie Israel lost their 20-year-old son, Michael, to a suicide in relation to abuse of opioids. The website links to inpatient and outpatient treatments, detox and therapeutic methods for addicts in need. The implemented programs hopes to raise awareness on abuse of prescription pills and other addictions. The agency proves effective. To date, Avi and Julie Israel have assisted over 228 addicts and 300 families.
The Lancaster Police Department is implementing a new program when it comes to overdoses requiring Narcan. Narcan is used to revive overdose victims within seconds by temporarily reversing symptoms caused by opioid use. The department is now conducting month-long follow-ups with patients who have received the care to ensure they are following a new healthy regimen and on the path to sobriety. This program has been in effect in many states, but is new to the Western New York area.
According to the National Collaborative for Hazing Research and Prevention, 1.5 million high school students are victims of hazing every year, including 47% of college students. Hazing is any action or situation created intentionally that causes embarrassment, harassment, or ridicule, and risk of a mental or physical harm to a member of a group. Assistant Professor of the Criminal Justice Department at Buffalo State, S. Marlon Gayadine, has studied the power struggle surrounding hazing for more than a decade. Hazing is not only active in school institutions, but in every life and public entities. Gayadine has written dissertations on anti-hazing legislation, referencing a Florida A&M marching band guilty of hazing a member to the point of loss of life. The act of hazing is unreported, occasionally goes without notice. Hazing is not viewed as a felony offense unless it results in an individual death.
College can be tough, as if group projects, teachers, and a healthy social and work balance isn't enough. Imagine also trying to manage a disease that is taking over your daily functions. Buffalo State's Allie Lasik has been managing her type 1 diabetes since she was born. But in 2016, she woke to a new sensation, pain.
Thank you, Amy. After battling a life-altering disease, Allie Lasik returns to Buffalo State with a clean medical canvas, inspiring fellow students with her art and perseverance. Senior at Buffalo State, Allie Lasik woke up on July 6, 2016 to a pain she's never felt before. The debilitating dizziness was frightening and it left her unable to walk. After multiple hospital visits, Lasik was diagnosed with autonomic neuropathy.
I woke up and I had burning skin pain all over my body. It was kind of like stinging, like I had sunburn everywhere, like the touch of my t-shirt on my stomach would kill. So I didn't wear underwear for months because that would hurt. So I woke up, I had that pain, no one could explain it. And I had this dizziness, so every time I stood up, I would just pass out because my blood pressure would drop to 0.
Lasik is a painting major who loves to paint pictures of her friends, her mom, and her dog. She inspires everyone around her with her amazing creativity and artwork.
Well, I was here when she painted it, and then I saw the final touch, and I cried, basically. This is the second portrait that she's painted. She did one of my dog for my birthday last year, and I normally am the person that's always doing the artwork. I'm never in front of it, so to see myself painted was actually really, really cool.
I love to paint, and not being able to paint was terrible because I would want to, and I would think about painting or drawing, or I would pick up a pen and try to start doodling, and I just couldn't. I couldn't hold the pen, I couldn't hold a coffee cup without spilling. It made me feel kind of purposeless. I'm taking a year off where I'm just gonna do my art and hopefully find a job somewhere in the art field, but mostly do art, network, and then after a year I want to go to grad school to get my master's in painting.
For the Buffalo Review TV, I am Cyan Hill.
Scientists have accidentally discovered a mutant enzyme that breaks down plastic drinking bottles. This enzyme was first discovered at a waste dump in Japan, and scientists have since explored how it has evolved. This mutant enzyme takes only a few days to break down bottles, which beats the current century-long standard for degradation. Scientists from the University of Portsmouth in the UK says the enzyme will turn plastics into their original petroleum oil forms. Currently, recycled plastic bottles can only be turned into opaque fibers for clothing or carpets. With this new enzyme, scientists may be able to reduce the amount of plastic waste in a more efficient manner.
Buffalo State's investment team has conquered a feat many years in the making. Led by economics and finance lecturer Gene Chaz, the students were able to return home with the prestigious Adirondacks Cup. The team came in first place with a return of 31.75% on a theoretical $1 million portfolio. Teams from 25 different colleges participated in the competition, including schools like RIT, Clarkson, and more. Chaz expressed his excitement for the students and encourages to have confidence in the investment world.
With hopes that spring will soon bloom, preparation for the annual Cherry Blossom Festival is underway. The event is intended to raise awareness and funds for the maintenance of the Delaware Park's Japanese garden. Kicking off the week-long event is a Taste of Japan from 4:30 to 6 Monday, April 13th, at Buffalo State College's campus house. The event costs $20 per person. All proceeds go to the Friends of the Japanese Garden. Coming up next on the Buffalo Review TV, we sit down with a member of Buffalo State Cabaret production, as well as celebrate milestones with Superman.
You're watching the Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media. You can find out more about our show at our website, thebuffaloreview.wordpress.com.
This year marks the 80th anniversary and the 1000th issue of Action Comics, the debut of the Man of Steel himself, Superman. Early next month, on May 5th, comic fans can experience yet another free comic book day. To talk about that, the world of comic books, as well as his own ventures in the comic book world, is comic book entrepreneur William Wateros. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me here, Max. Appreciate it.
So how about we start off at the beginning? What got you into comics?
Well, I think when I was younger, I always had a thing for imagination and creativity, and superheroes, they were a way to leave reality, to play, become anything you wanted to be. And it just carried over into my second childhood and my third childhood and fourth childhood. And I don't think I'm ever going to stop having a childhood.
Right. So you're an entrepreneur in the comic book world. What's your history working with comic books?
Well, I do have a history in the service industry. I was a bartender for 20 plus years. Then I was a teacher with the Sweet Home District and a professor at Medina College. But there came a moment in my life, I was in a minor car accident and was injured and was able to go in a direction to help a friend out who had a comic book shop. It's called Collector's Inn, and the place was just growing and growing and growing. And he was like, "You've got to check out these numbers and how busy we are." And I looked into it, and it was true. The trend of superheroes and the trend of creativeness and Magic the Gathering, it was blowing up. So I jumped on board and I volunteered to help him, and I did what I could helping him. And I have a love of coffee, and I just got to the point where I wanted to branch out and do my own thing and have coffee and comics and gaming together. But the industry right now is just booming. It's just booming, especially with the movies contribute to all that.
All right, well, let's jump right into that. So you have a comic book store opening up soon. When is that?
I do in about 2 to 3 weeks. It's due to some permits. I'm opening Iron Buffalo. It's going to be coffee, comics, and gaming for everyone. The idea came to me when I was talking to some friends who wanted to come to comic shops and gaming shops, look for some things for their children or shop for themselves. And they said they were almost intimidated to come in and talk to the true comic book collectors, which is funny to think about, how times have changed. And they just wanted a place where they felt comfortable coming in and grabbing a cup of coffee and learning about comics, talking about movies. And so that's when I realized it was time to open a shop for everyone that has something for everybody. So children can come in and learn about Pokemon. Children come in to read comics, preferably not Deadpool, but then they can, the parents can grab a cup of coffee and celebrate their childhood with their children now. That's what I'm shooting for.
Where will it be located?
Iron Buffalo will be on 656 Millersport Highway between UB North and UB South campus. And I have them wearing the pin on if you got that. It's I tried to tie into Iron Buffalo because I love Iron Man and I love the city of Buffalo. I'm born and raised in Buffalo, and I brought the two together.
Well, let's not forget about this thing right here. Explain a bit about this.
This is my Mark 43 armor made by Raw, Real Awesome Works, friend of mine over in the Philippines. And what it is it's actually foam mat that's sealed and then painted and strengthened, and then he added electronics to it. And I do have the full suit. and I wear it with the Superhero Alliance of Western New York, and we raise money for children, and we make children smile, basically. And I mean, but I use that as an excuse because who doesn't want to dress up like Iron Man?
Right.
I mean, it's fun because it's always a work in process, much like Tony Stark. I'm always fixing, repainting, trying this, trying that. But it's once you get in the armor and you see little children like run up and hug you,
Right.
it's unlike any feeling I've had. Well, besides becoming a father myself, but
Yeah.
it's amazing. So yeah, I dress up like Iron Man in my spare time, and I plan on wearing it around the coffee shop too.
So, a comic book store isn't most traditional store. Is the process of opening a comic book store different than maybe a retail clothing store?
Slightly, yes. Comic book collectors are very particular, and they're very they want to know your street cred, your geek cred, if I may, and whereas you have to go through the same red tape and hoops I'm learning for starting up the business, then you have to bring in on top of the extra pressure of attracting and having something for the serious collector. As much as I am excited to have a shop for everyone, I have to let the serious collectors know that I can get what they need in the condition they want
Right.
and deal with them. They're very particular. It's pretty funny. They're very intense. You'd never realize that. And I have friends who I try to explain this industry to who are actually in the business world, and they're just blown away by what I explain to them.
So, other than the super hardcore comic collectors, the new people, what is a day like Free Comic Book Day? How does that help them?
Free Comic Book Day is neat because the major players, Marvel, DC, Image, the independent ones, they put out free comics that will interest or intrigue new readers to get into a comic, or it might be a special collector's edition for current collectors to get, and it almost becomes, some people come in, they're like, oh, I have my stack of comics from all the past free comic book days. It's called Free Comic Book Day because customers are allowed to get the free comics, but the retailers, we do have to pay for them, but not as much. But Free Comic Book Day is a great way to celebrate everything that's comics, everything that's creative, and really embrace the community and let people know what we have to offer and what they can get and get into. And touching on that, I've got to say the movies have quadrupled interest. And there's a disconnect between the movies and the actual comic books, whereas in the theaters right now, everybody knows the Marvel movies are just crushing the DC movies,
Yep.
even though Wonder Woman was fantastic. But in the industry, Marvel comics are not doing that well. Well, because they keep trying to restart. This month we have another #1. You should come buy it. 6 months from now, hey, we have another #1. Come buy this one. Meanwhile, DC is just doing some fantastic things. Like recently they released Superman Action Comics 1000.
So let's jump right into that. What is the 1000th issue of one of the most important superheroes of all time? What does that mean to not only comic book collectors, but also culture?
I think it says something about our culture, partly how I think we're never truly ready to grow up. And as serious as your life is, something like reading a Superman comic book, Action Comics 1000, it's like, wow, it's history. It takes you back. It's something that a 5-year-old could look at. It's something that a 50-year-old, something that like a 75-year-old could all look at, and it would gap generations for their love of comics. And Superman is like the original, Boy Scout, the original, American, like the red, white, and blue, and I have a lot of respect for Superman, and I'm more of, in the DC world, of a Batman, the brooding, mopey kind of annoyed with Superman all the time, which just cracks me up. But Superman, he really represents, I think, a side of us that is good, a side of us that we all want to be, and he's out there. So if you're feeling like you're not that, you could read that comic and feel maybe, empowered again.
Right. Earlier you said something about retailers paying. And what I wanted to ask is, with like kind of the emergence of digital comics, how does that affect a comic book store that sells physical, actual floppy issues?
Well, it's a big concern right now in the industry because, in general, due to Amazon, even eBay to a point, it's crushing brick and mortar stores. But what Amazon does not offer, what digital comic books does not offer, is the community feel. Going to that comic book store that maybe you went to as in your younger days, and now you're going there with your son or daughter. A lot of people that I deal with, it's their one day out of the week. You know, the rest of the week they're working, they're staying at home, they're reading their comics, but that's the one day new comics come out on Wednesdays. They can come into a shop, talk about what they liked, what they didn't like, interact with people, and then disappear for a week, which is fine. Digital comics, they might be slightly cheaper and easier to obtain. You know, you download, you have it. But you don't have that physical, come and look at all the boxes in my basement, you know, or come and look at all the back issues I have. And you really can't turn around and resell digital comics either.
All right.
But I think it's a personal touch.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. I'd like to thank my guest, William Waterrose. Coming up more on the Buffalo Review TV.
You're watching the Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media. You can find out more about our show at our website, thebuffaloreview.wordpress.com.
Cabaret is a musical set in Berlin in the year 1931. It is the tale of nightclub performer Sally Bowles and American writer Cliff Bradshaw, and how their lives are affected amidst growing Nazi power. A major theme of Cabaret is how racism and intolerance can influence relationships between friends and lovers. Buffalo State is going into the last weekend of performing Cabaret. With us today is the director and professor, Jennifer Toohey, and Lily Jones, who plays Sally Bowles. Thank you both for coming in today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Yeah. So, first off, you both are in the theater. What is so special about theater? Why do you two like it?
Well, for me, it's that it's live and you never know what's going to happen. And it's such a collaborative art form. We couldn't do it without a million people doing their jobs correctly to make it look easy and flawless. And then the audience is just as important, giving us energy to make each show unique.
Yeah, there's definitely a feeling at the theater.
Yes.
Everybody kind of feels connected. So, in choosing Cabaret, what influenced this choice?
Well, we were originally going to do Spring Awakening, and we couldn't get the rights to that because it was being done somewhere else in the city. And Cabaret had just been done at Shays, and when that choice came up, it just seemed like a perfect fit with all the political angst that was going on. It seemed like the right time to explore this show again. And 2 weeks after we chose it, Charlottesville happened, and we had white supremacists marching in the streets of the United States and proud of it, and it just made it even more important to do this show.
Yeah, there's definitely an importance, a very need right now. So regarding Cabaret, how did you get into character and prepare for this particular show? Lily?
Well, this show's a beast. Like, Sally goes through a really vast emotional journey, so that's something that I have to get ready for every night, and the preparation's been different than any show I've done before, because I also have to get totally vocally warmed up. Lots of stretching and just time to get present, because I have to be very much conscious of what's going on stage, because I work so closely with the scene partner that I have to be so aware of what he's doing. So I just work really hard to take that time to get myself in the zone and know that I'll be ready to react to what I'm seeing as opposed to what I'm planning.
Right. When you say in the zone, do you just imagine what it was like to be living in 1931, or do you imagine, is it something you can put into words, or is it more?
Yeah, I mean, it's just through the rehearsal process, you kind of learn what it's like to be in the skin of a certain character, and me getting in the zone is just taking that time to listen and really hear and feel and smell what's around me and be in that moment, so I can live as she might have lived.
That makes a lot of sense. Did you, for preparing the cast, is there, in the talkback you talked about bringing people on to talk about the time period? Mm-hmm. What went into that? Who came to the rehearsals to inform people?
Well, we had a student, Thomas Emo, who came in, and we kind of assigned him this project to tell us about Weimar Germany, and he did just an incredible job of talking about what the political situation was and how the people in Berlin at that time got to where they are. He talked about the nightclub life, because the cabaret is such a central place in the show. And we had one of our art history professors came in and showed us artwork from the time. And so to see those visuals, I think, just stimulates the imagination for our cast. It was really helpful.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So were there any original ideas or alterations at Buffalo State that you guys infused into the script?
So you aren't allowed to change the wording of the script at all, but you always have your own concept or what theme is most important to your production. And so we definitely had a focus in our production on the audience and shining a light on them and saying, what are you doing to make this better? Are you just being a bystander, or are you out there trying to make your world a better place? Are you standing up for your neighbor when someone is discriminating against them? And so we took a Brechtian approach to this. So Bertolt Brecht was a playwright between the First and Second World Wars, and he did his own style of theater, which was called epic theater. Okay. And so in his style of theater, you saw the workings of everything that was happening. You were constantly reminded that you were watching a play. And so our set is very skeletal. You see people making their entrances and exits. You can see where the lights are hung on our stage. We have the MC always watching the scenes and kind of orchestrating what's going on in them, playing multiple characters. So all of that is really our take on the show.
So you went out of your way to make it an interactive experience between the audience and
yeah, to really break the fourth wall and make, we wanted people to feel like they were in the club and that they were bystanders.
So would you say when the audience leaves that what do you want them to, what do you hope that they leave feeling like, or do you hope that they feel empowered or want to change?
I hope that they want to take action so that whatever they believe in, they're not apathetic anymore. Ideally, that they go out and volunteer in their community or stand up for their neighbor when something unjust is happening to them. That would be the ideal for our audience.
And I think that does bring up the timeliness of Charlottesville, that this isn't some faraway concept that's not happening, that it is.
We are still fighting for civil rights for many groups. Women are still fighting for equality. The LGBTQ community is constantly fighting for equality. So it's not in the past, it's current.
That is all we have for today. So not only was Cabaret amazing, but it is so important. And I just want to thank you for directing the show and helping bring it to Buffalo.
Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media. You can find out more about our show at our website, buffaloreview.wordpress.com, and we welcome your feedback. If you have a question, comment, or story idea, you can email us at thebuffaloreview@gmail.com.